Hey there, it's Nick with Rockaway. We're here at the Jasinski residence. This is a landscape project that we did a couple months ago. I'll be showing you guys a little bit of our process here, as well as some aftercare instructions once we complete your landscape. So the first big thing that we really care about is the irrigation. It's the water to these plants. It's what's going to keep them alive in the short term, but also lead to their long-term health and having healthy plants on your property. So in these turf areas, we have pop-up sprays and rotors, kind of general things that we use for turf areas, but we like to do something special in our planting beds. We like to use drip line. You can see that best in this little bit of exposed drip line right here. This is a hollow tube that has very tiny micro holes in it that will actually drip water out into the root ball of these plants. Now, the reason that we prefer this to what we consider over-the-top water is that, a lot of our plants, especially in our hot Florida weather, if they receive this over-the-top water, it can lead to a lot of burning and a lot of other health issues. However, if we put that water right at the base, right at the root zone where it needs it, it's a lot easier for it to take up. We have way less waste, and in the end, we have much healthier plants. So whenever we're installing these large palm trees or any large hardwood as well, one thing that we always do is we always put bubblers, irrigation bubblers on these trees. These are going to put out anywhere from 1 to 3 gallons per minute into the root ball itself. Now, in the first few months of these trees going in, especially palms, it's really important to supplement the bubbler irrigation with some hand watering. We really want you to come out here, make sure that we're getting adequate water on these trees. Some of them can require between 60 and 80 gallons per day to keep their optimum health up. And we really encourage you to get out here, supplement that bubbler irrigation, and keep them hand watered for those first couple months after installation. One thing that we like to do on these big palm trees is definitely put some good stakes on them. This is super important for about the first year of these palms being in the ground. Keeps them nice and upright. They're not going to move with any kind of wind or any kind of shift, anything like that. So for the first year, we always like to keep our trees staked. After that time, we can take them out, they'll be nice and rooted, and they'll be good to go. So continuing with some of our aftercare instructions, a lot of new plants, we definitely recommend that you don't trim them for at least the first 6 to 8 weeks of them being in the ground. We want them to really kind of develop a root system, get their roots set in the soil before we want to give them any kind of stressors like cutting on them. In speaking with that and looking at our friend the arboricola, we also want to consider cold tolerance and cold hardiness of plants. Now, arboricola are incredibly root hardy, meaning that even if we do get a freeze, you may lose all of this really nice foliage, but that root system underneath the ground is still kicking and live and doing good. So these may defoliate, you may get a lot of branch loss, but once spring comes back around, you'll usually see these pop back up and start to regrow. And we try to keep that in mind when we are designing. If we are going to use not as hardy, evergreen kind of plants, to at least have something that's going to be root hardy, so that when we do go get those freezes here in Northeast Florida, we are going to have something that's going to come back up in the springtime and regenerate itself on its own. In terms of feeding a landscape like this, for the first month to maybe even 6 weeks, you really don't need to worry about it too much. The water is the most important thing. After that, you can start giving it some good fertilizer. That'll help get its roots starting to grow. It'll give it some good nitrogen so it can get some upward growth and set some new leaves and things like that to help those natural processes. But for at least the first 4 to 6 weeks, leave them alone, give them plenty of water, and they'll be just fine.